Breaking tonight, new suggestions Donald Trump could be making the biggest gamble of his 2016 campaign. The question now, will it pay off? Welcome to the Kelly File. I'm Shannon Bream, in for Megyn Kelly. Next Wednesday, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton will take part in a discussion that's being billed as the first joint candidate event of the general election. It's sort of an unsanctioned debate. NBC's Matt Lauer will individually question them on national security, military affairs, and veterans issues in what's being called the Commander-in-Chief Forum. Comes at a crucial time for Mr. Trump, as some top generals have lined up behind Hillary Clinton, new ones today, raising questions about his support among the military ranks. What's more, unlike the three official debates later this fall, there's no governing body for this forum, and NBC is free to handle it any way they want. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn served as the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. He is the author of the best-selling Field of Fight, How We Can Win the Global War Against Radical Islam and Its Allies. General Flynn will be with Donald Trump when he receives his second intelligence briefing tomorrow. He's been advising the candidate on national security issues. All right, General.
Wow.
There's a lot going on.
A lot going on.
A briefing is very important tomorrow, obviously. We talked after you had just come out of that first briefing, and you felt that not only did Mr. Trump get all the information that he needed, you felt like he was ready to be the commander-in-chief. Of course, you know, there are a lot of critics who will say he's going up against someone who's been a Secretary of State, a senator, has been exposed to this kind of information and has worked with countries around the world. Why is he the better bet?
Yeah, I would just say just the ability to understand complex issues, to simplify complex things that are going on around the world. And Donald Trump has been paying attention to what has been going on around the world for a long, long time. And I will tell you, over the course of this year, it has gotten into more and more detail as he's gotten closer to this point. So I think that what I saw in the sort of the Q&A in that particular intelligence briefing that he received, I've seen thousands of those, Shannon. So, I mean, I was very comfortable with the conversation and the level of discourse and, frankly, what he got. And as I said at that time, that what was presented to him is in stark contrast to the policy decisions that are coming out of this White House. So tomorrow will be interesting, and there's a set of topics that we've asked for, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay, now you are somebody, obviously, who has served our country. I and millions around this country have got great respect for you, but when we hear Donald Trump say things like, I understand ISIS better than the generals do, or I know more about ISIS than the generals do, he doesn't know more than you.
Yeah, I mean, and again, put it in the context of when it was. So we're talking about, I think, almost a year later from that particular comment. Where we are, and I'm glad that you raised this thing that may or may not happen. I don't know if you know what the final result is going to be on this Commander-in-Chief Forum next week.
Sounds like it's happening.
Yeah, or who is supporting Hillary Clinton versus who is supporting Donald Trump. I think that what we will see is we'll see an individual in Donald Trump who is ready to serve today as the Commander-in-Chief. I have no problems with Donald Trump stepping up and understanding the complexities. I describe them, Shannon, as the perils that the next president is going to face because of the mess that has been left on the world stage in places like the South China Sea, North Korea, the Eastern European border of Ukraine, where Russia is going through a massive exercise right now, and just the utter disaster in the Middle East and parts of North Africa. I mean, that's what the next president is being left by this current administration, and that includes Hillary Clinton spending 4 years laying this thing on the world stage. So as a Secretary of State, so it's a mess.
Who do you think is taking the bigger gamble by showing up at this event next week? They won't be on stage together, but they're both going to face tough questions. There'll be veterans and other military leaders in the audience and asking questions. Is it a bigger gamble for him or for her?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a much bigger gamble for her because she has not she's not been out all that much. So, you know, I'm sure that she'll be prepared. Like everybody says, she prepares very well. But I think that what you've seen and what you've heard from Donald Trump over a year, and his constant talking about the issues and talking about the world as it is today, the reality that we face, and some of the threats that we face, I think actually he will be. In fact, I know he's going to be much better prepared personally for Donald Trump to be able to address the issues that he's going to be asked about.
All right, General, thank you always for your service
Thanks,
to this
Shannon.
country. Congrats on the book, and we'd love to hear from you after the briefing tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you.
For coming in. All right, as we mentioned, Matt Lauer is going to be the one moderating next week's Commander-in-Chief Forum. And when that news broke, a number of conservative websites immediately started questioning Lauer's role. Trace Gallagher has that part of the story from our West Coast newsroom. Hey, Trace.
Hey, Shannon, during the one-hour Commander-in-Chief's forum, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, as you say, won't be on stage together, but instead will appear back-to-back. And today's show host Matt Lauer will moderate. And that's sparking conflict of interest concerns because Lauer once appeared on the Clinton Global Initiative website as a notable member. The page has since been taken down, and NBC says it never should have been up in the first place, saying, quoting, Matt Lauer was not and is not a Clinton Global Initiative member. It should also be noted that Fox Business anchor Maria Bartiromo was also listed as a CGI member, and she, too, denies it. But conservative critics have been pointing to media bias in this campaign ever since ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos interviewed Hillary Clinton without disclosing that he had donated large sums of money to the Clinton Foundation. ABC later apologized, and the GOP blocked Stephanopoulos from moderating a Republican presidential primary debate. Now, with the first of 3 presidential debates scheduled for September 26th, Donald Trump has said he won't appear if the moderators aren't fair. The Presidential Debate Commission, which picks the moderators, says the campaigns really don't get a say, but clearly the commission realizes what a delicate dance this is. Consider that normally the commission announces moderators in mid-August, and now it won't be until at least next week. For the record, a morning consult poll among registered voters has Anderson Cooper and Megyn Kelly topping the list of preferred moderators. Presidential debates normally draw between 50 and 70 million viewers. Experts say the September 26th debate could draw 100 million. Shannon.
She gets my vote. Trace, thank you. Or joining us now, Howie Kurtz, host of Media Buzz on Fox News. Mo Alethi, the founding executive director of Georgetown University's Institute of Politics and Public Service. He served as traveling press secretary on Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign. And Guy Benson, townhall.com political editor and a Fox News contributor. Welcome, all of you.
Hi, Shannon.
All right, Mo,
Hello.
I'll start with you because you saw we just had General Flynn on talking about this Commander-in-Chief thing that's coming up. And he says he thinks, in his opinion, it's a bigger risk for Hillary Clinton because she's been part of this administration, which is leaving behind a lot of foreign policy stuff to deal with. Your take?
You know, it's interesting. We're talking about veterans and the military. And historically, if you look in politics, Republicans tend to do very well with that vote, with the military vote, with the veteran vote. There seems to be something baked into people's psyche, into voters' psyche, that if you have an R next to your name, you might be better on defense or veterans issues, and if you have a D next to your name, maybe on some other issues. I think that calculus is scrambling a little bit in this election cycle, in part because of some of the things that Donald Trump has said and done. I think the fact that he went to war, rhetorical war, with the Gold Star family, and said that he gets his military advice from the shows, has really kind of put him in a more tenuous position with a lot of the voters who are concerned about national security and veterans issues, much more so than any Republican nominee in recent history.
Yeah, and today, Guy, she picked up 2 4-star generals' endorsements. That is something we've seen, although Lieutenant General Michael Flynn said here that he's seen Mr. Trump evolve and get up to speed on these issues. He is convinced he's ready to be commander-in-chief, but some of those generals out there aren't, Guy.
Yeah, and so each person is going to come out and give their various endorsements, and I think General Flynn made the case for Donald Trump, and I don't necessarily agree that this is a bigger risk or gamble for either of them. I think if you want to be president, if you want to be commander-in-chief, you need to be able to go through the gauntlet and answer these types of questions. Which brings me to the moderator of this and sort of the controversy over Matt Lauer. It actually doesn't really bother me that much because I think that at the end of the day, each journalist should be judged on his or her merits and their performance. So whereas George Stephanopoulos, I think, is problematic on a few levels, Matt Lauer has the opportunity to show up and do a good job. The key is transparency and disclosure. If there's been any connection whatsoever with the Clinton Foundation or Clinton Global Initiative, that should be out in the open for viewers to know ahead of time. That is crucial.
All right, Howie, you are watching this all. You know the players involved. You know Matt Lauer, and we've seen him interview Mr. Trump before, certainly, you know, Hillary Clinton, and interest with the Clinton Foundation now being questioned about his past. Enlighten us a little bit on that.
First of all, I think Matt Lauer has a pretty good track record of being tough on all political guests. Donald Trump, who's complained to me about his past conflicts with CNN, MSNBC, Fox, New York Times, Politico, Washington Post, etc., has never said a word about being unhappy with any of Lauer's interviews. And I think the whole Clinton Foundation thing is a non-controversy, never gave a dime. And the foundation tended to list as notable members any journalist who was in the audience or went on a panel or something like that. As far as the risk involved, the playing field and the subject might seem to favor a former Secretary of State, except for this. Donald Trump's done about 5,000 interviews this year. He's pretty well honed his skills at dealing with and deflecting these kinds of questions. If anything, Hillary Clinton, who hasn't held a news conference all year and has given far fewer interviews, might be a little rusty.
Yeah, about that, Mo, this is sort of a pre-debate debate. It's not sanctioned. We don't know exactly how they're going to handle it. It's not going to be handled the same way as the official presidential debates. Is it a bit of a warm-up for Mrs. Clinton, who it's been 271 days? The last time that she held a press conference was before even a single primary vote had been cast. That's a long time.
Yeah, but this isn't a press conference, right? This is more. You're right. We don't know what the structure is going to be. She has done. She's done other one-on-one interviews, both at the national level and the local level. But having said that, look, you know, I think Howie's right that Donald Trump has a lot of experience. He does, you know, he'll talk to anyone that'll talk to him. Sometimes it feels like, but at the same time, you know, these are complex issues, and I think back to what General Flynn said a few minutes ago, that Donald Trump has the ability to simplify complex issues. Some issues aren't simple. Some of these complex international global issues that the commander-in-chief has to deal with aren't simple, and Hillary Clinton is very well versed in these. So I think the subject matter is going to provide a pretty stark contrast for voters to be able to choose between.
All right, Guy, quick final word to you.
I think there's an expectations game at play here that's very important, and it goes back to what we saw with the Mexico trip. Expectations for Trump are so low. When he exceeds them, he benefits. Because of Hillary Clinton's pedigree and resume, her expectations, particularly on these issues, will be sky high.
Well, people were worried about that Mexico trip for him yesterday. Pretty strong praise across the board, at least on the first half of the day. That trip to Mexico. We'll see how the Commander-in-Chief Forum plays out. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you all. All right, at this moment, a potentially life-threatening storm system quickly approaching Florida's Gulf Coast as that state braces for the arrival of Hurricane Hermine. I think I'm saying it right, but you can correct me. I'm not sure. We will bring you all the breaking developments on that. Also ahead, was Donald Trump's immigration speech too aggressive even for those who support him? Well, our next guests have worked closely with the Republican Party this cycle, and they have had enough, they say, with the Republican nominee. Then Katrina Pearson is here with the campaign's response. Stick around.
Under my administration, anyone who illegally crosses the border will be detained until they are removed out of our country and back to the country from which they came.